How's it going, YouTube? It's your favorite healer, LB Ninja 7, bringing you guys a Preservation Evoker Mythic Plus guide. Preservation Evoker has kind of swept the nation. It's the talk of the town. It is the S Plus healer, and it's a ton of fun, so I am going to give you everything that you need to know to start playing Preservation Evoker when Mythic Plus comes out, and why you should play it in the first place. So let's go ahead and jump into the guide. First, let's talk about pros and cons of the class. First up, the pros. It is by far the most versatile healer. Almost every spell is modal. It has the ability to lust. It also does a ton of damage. And it finally does a ton of healing in both Raid and Mythic Plus content, which is by and far the most important thing in terms of picking your main in as an expansion. Next up, let's talk about the cons. The only con that I can think of is its low or weird range spells. A lot of the spells kind of have a requirement on range, and it's just gets wonky sometimes, but it's very easily played around. So that should not be something to deter you from playing this spec. First up, let's go and jump into the talents and stats that you should go for. So this talent tree on screen is what I've found to be the most safe and beginner-friendly talent tree. The best part about the preservation tree is that it has a lot of strong options and not too many weak options, so it's hard to go wrong. I recommend this as a starting point as it gives a ton of AoE damage and healing. I've put a beautifully drawn red box over all the talents that I found necessary in the first few weeks, but for the most part, feel free to try each talent and figure out what you find necessary and fun. I have also put a blue box around Stasis, indicating that it is a very powerful choice, but I would not select it until you feel comfortable with the rest of the kit. So let's go ahead and jump into the stats. What are your stat weights and preferred stats? First up, we got crit and verse. So these are going to be your best stats, as they will buff your burstiness the most, whether that be full healing the group with one ability or slamming a pack with massive AoE damage. Crit will help extend your reversions, and verse will make you tankier. So both of these are your go-to main stats. Up next is haste, as it's a very good stat to also increase the amount of casts you get, therefore increasing your damage and healing, but only push it as far as your mana bar allows you to. Mastery is an odd stat. Just like most other healers' mastery, it is a strong healer multiplier. In fact, it's one of the best masteries for healing when it works. The main drawback to Preservation's mastery is that it requires you to have a higher HP percent than the target, therefore practically being shut off more than half the time. This gets a little worse when you consider that your tank should always have less HP percent than you anyway. So that means that you will be healing your tank for a lot less than you should. So now let's go ahead and get into some of the new things that Preservation Evoker brings, or Evoker in general. And first up, we're going to talk about the empowered spells. So the more you channel these spells, the more it changes. So Fire Breath just does a ton of AoE damage. Dream Breath does a ton of AoE healing. And both of these do the same amount of damage and healing regardless of how far you empower it. It just front loads more of that damage or healing based on how long you channel it. So if you barely channel it, it'll be a big hot or a big dot basically, and if you channel it as far as it can go, it'll be a nice big burst of healing or damage. Spirit Bloom is a ton of AoE healing. It's the only one that gets better as you empower it, since it hits more targets the longer you channel it. Now let's talk about their new resource, and that is Essence. So some spells cost Essence as well as mana to cast. So first up, we have Emerald Blossom, which is where you place a big AoE ring around an ally that will pop after a few seconds and heal 3 to 5 allies depending on what your talents are. Disintegrate is a channeled single target damaging ability that has slightly higher damage than Living Flame, but not worth spending the Essence on. Echo is what's going to lead me into my next section, since it is so intricate that it deserves its own section. So Echo does a base heal when you apply it to a target, but then it applies a bubble on that target. The next time that you cast a single target heal, that bubble is going to pop and heal everyone with that single target ability that had Echo on it. So it's going to basically echo onto those targets. So the 3 single target spells that work with Echo are Reversion, which works really well when you have the talent Golden Hour because it'll heal for 15% of the damage they've taken in the last 5 seconds. And if you have Echo on someone and you apply Reversion to them, it will heal them for 30% of the damage they've taken, as well as apply the Reversion Hot. Verdant Embrace is a great way to heal someone because it will also echo onto your target. Living Flame is kind of the last one that works, and it is just, if you have to use it, then use it, but try to avoid using this for Echo. There are better ways to spend your Echoes. Now let's touch on the single target healing. So this is actually how you're going to be playing the spec. So if you only have one target to top up, use either just Verdant Embrace or Echo of Verdant Embrace on them, depending on how much health is missing. This should top them up. It is a big, massive heal, and it's on a 15-second cooldown. The next thing that you should keep in mind during this scenario is to make sure and use time dilation. This is your tank external, and it will delay the damage your tank is taking and therefore help you out in the long run and help them out in the long run. If you need to pump single target heals into a tank or someone that just took a big hit, know that Reversion with the Golden Hour talent will instantly heal 30% of that damage and apply a small hot to them. If you want to keep pumping damage and only one target is taking damage, then Fire Breath with the talent Life Giver's Flame will basically full heal that target and let you keep pumping damage. In a pinch, Living Flame can also be used to heal someone, but with the mana cost and cast time, it is less efficient most of the time than your other options. Next up, let's talk about the AOE Healing, because this is where the versatility of Preservation's kit shines. If everyone is taking light damage, you can apply a strong hot to them, all by using a non-charged Dream Breath. If for some reason you want them all to be topped instantly, you could fully charge it, but in most cases, it's just a waste of time to charge it, since it does that same amount of healing. Spirit Bloom is a much better option when you need to top the party up fast. It hits more targets the longer you channel it and heals a ton, like 80k crits sometimes. You could also get some AoE healing out of using your Echo, and this is kind of where this ability shines too. So if you echo your single target spells on other members, that is also AoE healing. So first up, I want to talk about echoing Reversion. It's just a great way to keep your essence on recharge and also keep your reversions on cooldown. It also applies a small hot to the party or to any echoes that you have out. Where this becomes an amazing option is if multiple party members have taken a lot of burst damage, boosting your Golden Hour proc. This will also apply a hot to the party and is just such a great use of Echo. Echoing Verdant Embrace, however, is probably going to become more common. If you echo Verdant Embrace on targets that don't have Echo on them, a nice AoE burst heal will happen where it hits every Echo and also the target that you hit. But if you hit that same target that you have an Echo on, it'll double and heal for a ton. You can also utilize your Leaping Flame procs from the talent Leaping Flames by charging your Fire Breath on an enemy and then casting Living Flame on your allies. This will send a Living Flame to all allies if used on your allies, or if there aren't enough enemies for those Living Flames to hit, they will hit your allies. Finally, I want to talk about Rewind. Rewind is kind of the best version of all the healer's major cooldowns in Mythic Plus. It's insane and it looks so good in Raid, but it shines in Mythic Plus, where it reverts half the damage that everyone's taken in the last couple seconds and just turns it into healing. So it's a great big burst of healing, but also applies a hot to everyone. So it's perfect for Mythic Plus, because when you want those big cooldowns is when you need a panic button, and it is a panic button. It's so good. So Rewind is just, it's an instant heal like Revival, but it scales based on how much damage the group is taking, making it just the perfect panic button. Next up is the damage rotation. It's fairly simple, but there are 3 different ones that I want to bring to your attention. However, they're all very similar, and I hope that you see that after I tell you. So first up, we're going to talk about when you have 3 or more enemies. So first up, you're going to Fire Breath. This is your highest damaging ability, whether it be a single target or AoE, spoiler alert. But then after you Fire Breath, if you have the Leaping Flames talent, you're going to want to cast Living Flame on an enemy, and that will shoot out Living Flames on all the enemies in front of you, or at least up to 5. And then if there are still 3+ enemies, you're going to want to just spam Azure Strike. This, especially if you have the protracted talents talented, because this will hit 3 targets, and it's just the way to maximize your damage. Next up, if you have 2 targets, you're going to want to start off with, you guessed it, Fire Breath. It is just your most damaging ability. And then cast that buffed Living Flame if you're using it. And then after that, Living Flame spam. It's that easy. So Fire Breath and then Living Flame with 2 targets. Next up is the single target damage rotation. It's the simplest one yet. You're going to Fire Breath on cooldown and then Living Flame spam as much as you can. You're also going to want to squeeze in any free disintegrates that you get, but only if you can spare them. So if you need to use those procs for healing, do that instead, but basically Living Flame spam is just going to do more damage than, say, your Azure Strike. I do want to quickly note that charging Fire Breath is not necessary on 2 or fewer targets unless you think the enemy will die before the dot gets its full value and you want that damage up front, or you think that you'll need the healing from Leaping Flame's AoE. Finally, you'll also want to use Deep Breath only on AoE pools, not on bosses, or for stun if you have the Terror of the Skies talented. I do want to note that Oppressive Roar is a good combo with this setup, making it a 4.5 second stun as opposed to 3. So that is the basics. That should give you everything that you need to know to start playing Preservation Evoker. I hope this helped, and I hope that you guys give it a shot because I have been having a ton of fun, and I'm really considering maining this over Mistweaver Monk. However, if you're maining Mistweaver Monk, check out my other videos. I have plenty of Mistweaver content, but I'm trying to branch out a bit more. So if you like this video, if you like the information, feel free to hit like to let me know that. And leave a comment down below if I left anything important out. I know I kind of touched on all the basics and left a lot of the intricacies out, but if you want to leave those down in the comments, anything that you've learned this class, the knowledge is just growing about it every day among the community, so feel free to leave that down below, and definitely tell me what you thought of this video. If you like this style, I want to hear that because I love your feedback. You guys have been helping me out over the years, so help me get to 1,000 subscribers too. I'm so close. I'm at 731, I think, at the time of recording this, so definitely smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. There is more Evoker, more Mistweaver, and more of any general healer content coming your way, so feel free to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it at all. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.